So today we have Kyle, who is going to be starting us off with movie trailer history. And then we've got Jack, who's going to be going through more of like editing and like conventions of editing, and I'm going to say, and where we're going next, but probably not. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I did not see the end of their presentation yet. So I will let you guys take it from here if you want to introduce yourselves first and then go forth.
All right, well, I'm Kyle, like Shana said. I don't know, it's not really much. You got it. What should I say? Like my age?
What's your, pretend this is a,
like an icebreaker. Got it.
networking.
All right. I'm a cinema photo film major at Ithaca College, junior. Yeah, I like movies. I don't know what's appropriate to talk about right now.
Maybe Jack should have gone first. Yeah.
You know me better, that it's not going to be much better than that. I'm Jack. I'm an Ithaca alum, graduated December of 2019, so it's been like over a year now. I currently work as an assistant editor for A&E Networks, not the channel. So I do monetization stuff with them. I help edit YouTube videos for their channels. So if you watch that stuff, I see that stuff before you guys, I guess. When I was studying at Ithaca, I was a TVR major with a focus in post-production and editing. That is my bread and butter and the thing that I love to do. So yeah, we're gonna talk about it today, but Kyle's gonna start you off.
Yeah. So today we're gonna talk about movie trailers. I love movie trailers. Thank you. It was an old meme and it came to my head immediately. Thank you, Nick. So I want to keep this really like chill and conversational because in all honesty, the history of movie trailers is just weird. And the more like you guys try to think about how it got to where it is, the dumber it gets and the more fun it's going to be. So if you just feel free to unmute yourself, talk, whatever, while we're going through it. So, all right, here we go. So trailers, as we all know them, previews or coming attractions. They initially played at the end of a film reel, though. Which is why they got the name trailers, because they would literally trail a feature film. But I'd love for you guys to guess why they moved from the end of a trailer. I mean, the end of a coming attraction. No, wait, at the end of a feature film to the beginning of a feature film.
Anybody venture a guess?
Propaganda. War propaganda.
Love me some war propaganda. Love that in my blockbuster films. All right, where's the chat? I can't see the chat. There is the chat. Because people would leave. Exactly. The most American thing ever. Once the credits come up, we're getting the hell out of there. So those were one of the big pushes as to why they changed from the end of a film to the beginning, but also in the beginning of a film, which I'll get into a little bit more. There, like again in the 1920s, when you will go to the cinema, you're there for a whole day. You're not there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. You're there to see everything. So newsreels, short films with like cartoons. You're there to get a whole smorgasbord of entertainment. Because what else do you have at home? A book? Who reads? So in 1913, trailers are born. So this man, I can't pronounce his name. And I've tried to find videos about pronunciating it, and I just cannot. I believe it's Nils Granlund.
Yeah, it looks Swedish. Nils Granlund, yeah.
Yes, it's not. So he was the advertising manager for an actual theater house in New York called the Marcus Little Theaters. And they wanted to find a new avenue to actually market their performances. So what he ended up doing was recording a run through of an actual live stage performance for the musical The Pleasure Seekers, which is a very obscure Broadway show because again, this is in like the 1910s. So trying to find history on like what this actual show was about, you can't find it. It is hard to find with a simple Google search. Even Google Scholar let me down. So they used all this rehearsal footage and they put it into actual theater chains. They made business partnerships and whatnot. So again, in that big reel before they'd actually get to the movie or two that you would watch, this advertisement, which is like a brand new way of marketing, would be played there. So this is the first half of what we can really say is the early movie trailer. The other half is this. Has anyone here ever heard of The Adventures of Kathleen? If you raise your hand, you're lying to me. So a part of the big package of things that would be played at the beginning were film serials. So these would be similar to TV series nowadays. They'd be about 10, 15-minute-esque clips of a whole overarching story, and they would end on a cliffhanger, and then they would then a week or two later they'd be switched out of those reels and then a new one would come in. So you would go back to the movies over and over and over to see this whole overarching story. So and one of the big ones that really like started pushing the serial was William Sells Company in Chicago, and this serial was The Adventures of Kathleen, which just followed Kathleen and her adventures. Again, not much information on this stuff. No one cares apparently. Shana is 150 years old, I guess. How rude. Anyway, the goal of the cliffhanger.
She worked on this. Wasn't just saying it to be rude.
Anyway, the goal of the cliffhanger was just to bring the audience back in. So the idea of trying to advertise some larger attraction and this ending portion which will trail people off with more curiosity to come back is what bled into the modern trailer. So both the musical tease and again, like I just said, why am I reading off the screen? I'm an idiot. Anyway, so they would play at the end, of course, until they were put in the beginning. So this by 1916, so within 3 short years, this all became a common practice. And now, has anyone here ever heard of the National Screen Service? I haven't either. And this is very fascinating because this company had bases in Chicago, in New York, and in Los Angeles. So the 3 major cities. And of course, back in like the 1910s, 1920s, movie theaters were only in major cities. They weren't in like random small towns across America where you'll go and see like an old nice Roxy or what have you. So a big part of the OG trailer rollout was that the studios themselves didn't make trailers. Can anyone guess as to why that was? Beyond the obvious, it's on the screen. There's more to it. Just curious, everyone knows.
So you're saying that the studios themselves didn't cut these together?
No. If they did, that was a very rare circumstance when they started off.
Would the theater themselves do it?
Nope. So the National Screen Service, which we'll get into the next slide, did them themselves. So eventually, when they gained enough popularity of making advertisements, because studios would pay them to make these because one, it was expensive to do so. You're already creating a feature-length film with all those editors. Again, this is when you're using analog controls. So you have certain set of prints, you have a certain set of reels on how long you can make things, especially when studios were making like almost 200 plus movies a year, much larger than we are nowadays. So it was just a financial and a logistical nightmare trying to create a trailer. So outsourcing to these smaller, lesser companies was the easiest thing to do. But this became a major problem. There's a board game named after this problem, if anyone has an idea. I love doing like these like elementary school like cliffhangers. This is fun.
Is it Monopoly?
Yes. Trouble. Ooh, smart Shana. I like that. She's a thinker. Yes. The National Screen Service became a full-blown monopoly. They've made trailers from the 1920s to the 1960s, the majority of which were by themselves before their downfall. So again, they made deals with these major studios, and they made very cheap very poor trailers. A lot of these include a lot of text being overlaid on top of screen with these nice swooshes and a lot of sweeping key scenes. Something similar to a screen wipe, which I'll show in a second. And they sent posters and trailers out weekly to all sorts of studios. And an example, and one key thing too, is that a lot of alternate takes were used. So, and again, in the final film, you would not see the scenes used here. Because again, they were, especially in the early days, they only had so much film they had to use for the film that trying to put that into a trailer was just a waste of the final product. So if this will play for me. And, oh, whoops, sorry. And right away, you can see like the sweeping text coming in and then the transition showing off just how cookie cutter this
City of
ended up
hope
being.
and despair, located in French Morocco in North Africa. The meeting place of adventurers, fugitives, criminals, refugees lured into this danger-swept oasis by the hope of escape to the Americas. But they're all trapped, for there is no escape against this fact.
We don't need to watch this whole thing. You might have seen this movie by now. I don't know. It came out, long ago. But one big thing too, which I want to point out, is that a lot of quick cuts are being used here, and trailers at this time were very similar to one another. Just keep that in your back pocket for now. So come the 1960s, there started to be a shift away from this formula. And again, at this time, still a lot of trailers did not incorporate final film footage. But what happened here is that there became a much more creative way to tell the trailer for one story. So, for instance, Alfred Hitchcock became famous for this. The man himself was just known in his films. He cameoed in like every single one of them. But his trailer for Psycho was one of the more popular ones at the time that broke from this very cookie cutter mold the NSS made. And I highly recommend watching this whole thing later. It's a whopping 6.5 minutes long. So, oh, gross, I don't know what that is. But I highly recommend watching this in full because it grips you. And I'll be silent here so you can listen, and just enjoy this.
Good afternoon. Here we have a quiet little motel, tucked away off the main highway, and as you see, perfectly harmless looking, when in fact, it has now become known as the scene of the crime. This motel also has, as an adjunct, an old house, which is, if I may say so, a little more sinister looking, less innocent than the motel itself. And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place. I think we can go inside because the place is up for sale, although I don't know who's going to buy it now. In that window on the second floor, the single one in front, that's where the woman was first seen. Let's go inside.
And I'll leave that as a cliffhanger if you care to see any more of that. But again, a more like avant-garde representation from the filmmakers themselves were present in these trailers. Has anyone ever seen Dr. Strangelove? Great film if you haven't. As you know, that film's just crazy. It is just such an enjoyable watch. The trailer, however, I think is just a great representation of how just insane someone can make one of these. And it's completely opposite of what Hitchcock did.
Attack Russia. Oh. Base. In
females to each male.
The kill machine.
Fluids.
The doomsday machine.
Blast off!
Where's my shorts? Where's the bathroom?
Should I get it?
On the hotline.
Oh, great on the great shot. So as you can see, at this point in time, people are moving away. They were definitely moving away from having these be outsourced. So now a lot of in-house studios, and the studios themselves are making these in-house before exporting them to theaters.
Are they still playing it at the end of the films though? At this point?
No, at this point, they're in the beginning. That was a fad that shifted away a long time beforehand. Am I in full mode still? I don't know if I am. One second. Sorry, everyone. Technical difficulties. Okay, there we go. Okay, so a lot of this idea of traditional versus avant-garde trailer definitely changed come the 70s. At this point, multiplex theaters, so the ones that were like Super 6s, 8s, were getting more and more popular across the US. So there was less room for posters. This is kind of a crazy thing because not only did the NSS make trailers, but they also made posters. And again, posters would be put up all over the place across the theater. But now that the theaters have more screens and less space to actually like just slap a poster up, they started to lose a lot of money, and they quickly just diminished and became a thing of the past. But blockbusters completely changed everything about making a trailer. And one of the big ones was Jaws. For a few of the key reasons here, the trailer was put on TV, incredibly popular because snippets of it were able to be seen at home instead of having to be seen in a theater. While effective in a big dark room, it's even more effective when everyone can sit around the TV and watch it. And this was and Jaws is also one of the first films to be released wide, so it didn't just get released in New York and LA before it's like spread out on a wide that way. And also the score. If you've ever seen Jaws, we all know the score from Jaws. You could probably comment if you've never even seen the movie. And the score is something that's very integral to the actual trailer itself, as we can see here.
There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack, devour anything. It is as if God created the devil, gave him jaws. This is Universal's extraordinary motion picture version of Peter Benchley's best-selling novel, Jaws.
Found out that a girl got killed here last week. You knew it. You knew.
Again, we don't really need to go through the whole thing, but that introductory hook alone was something that was completely different than anything really seen before. No, won't let me escape. There we go. So before we continue, I do want to talk about trailer music for a second, because if you've seen a movie trailer nowadays, you're probably used to hearing all the like cuts that are put to music and all the high intense, like look at me type of music being played. And I would ask you, from a modern blockbuster, can you remember their score? Like sort of like if I asked you like if you could tell me like I don't know like Iron Man's movie theme, could you tell me that? No. But if I asked you to tell me what Star Wars theme is, you could probably give me a bunch. You give me the Force theme, Leia's theme, Luke's theme. You can give me a bunch. Does anyone have an idea why that is?
I guess because how repetitive it's consistently like been.
Mhm.
Like throughout like Star Wars, like they continually play like those sound bites throughout each of their films, so it's like more recognizable, I guess.
Yeah, so one thing, they do cross over from feature to feature, but a big aspect of it is actually in the marketing. Because movie trailers actually played their music in their trailers. So a lot of different themes that I could ask you right now: Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, Ghostbusters, Mission Impossible. We all know those themes, and it's because as when they started and as they branched out, you would hear those themes more and more commonly in the marketing. So if you would go to like the original trailer for Empire Strikes
Luke
Back,
Skywalker and Han Solo rescued the princess, destroyed the Death Star, but their story didn't end there. Now, the creators of the biggest smash hit of all time bring you the next.
so even within those 20 seconds, you have that John Williams score that's so popular and now beloved by all sorts of other people, by everyone. Why am I saying other people? Jeez, my diction is off tonight. I'm sorry, everybody. Or even in Ghostbusters. I said they better not give me an ad for the Ghostbusters trailer. Jeez.
They're here.
Hey, anybody see a ghost?
They catch the ghost that won't stay dead. There are.
So those are just two very small, quick examples. But it just goes to show that a lot of ways we interpret a character theme is attached to how often we see it and how commonly it's used. So the more and more you're seeing of it, the more you're associated. It's like me when I worked at a pizza shop this past summer and I heard Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles constantly play, and I just wanted to kill every single radio that was in that shop because that's what I associated with, anger. Anywho, that's enough about me.
Luke Skywalker and
does anyone know how like famous this man is? Because this guy, Don LaFontaine, is the In a World trailer voice, and this is a lost art nowadays, which just breaks my heart because this man, like starting in the early 80s, voiced over 5,000 different trailers alone, like just movie trailers, not even talking about commercials or TV spots. His voice is so famous that like they even did a Geico ad where he just narrated someone's life, just like their daily life for like a 30-second spot, and it's hilarious. And one thing, and what's really interesting was that we all like, I'm speaking for myself here, but we definitely know like the In a World joke, but it's never used nowadays. And the unfortunate thing is when LaFontaine passed away unexpectedly in 2008, a lot of his friends and colleagues who also did trailer voiceovers, they also, out of respect for the man who he became the living legend, stepped back and away from that actual job. So the In a World voiceover telling you what the story is about started in the 80s but died out with Fontaine, which is very tragic. But one of the most interesting things I found was his last credit voice. It's from an episode of Phineas and Ferb. And if you like me, grew up watching that show, you'll remember the character Meep and how Phineas and Ferb love to just do end credit gags. So I had to do more research on this, but this is the first episode Meep appears in. But in the trailer gag, in the credit gag for this, they made a trailer for a fake episode of Phineas and Ferb with LaFontaine doing a voiceover, which they later on ended up making an actual episode for.
save the universe?
Yes. Yes, I am.
I want your hat on my desk. Holly.
What? Jeremy's going to be there?
The Chronicles of Meat, episode 40. Meatless in Seattle. In a world, there, I said it, happy.
I just thought that was a very honorable and fitting way for that to be his last voice credit ever. And a big thing too with trailers was that we all know them from seeing them in films, but with the start of like home video starting on VHS, with this classic coming soon to own on DVD and video thing that we all watch, rewatch that, like one Finding Nemo, like exactly. Micah has it. Like I can hear the picture too. Like there's a VHS tape of Nemo that hates me for this like video. But one thing that was brilliant about this is that companies no longer had to pay for TV spots to get this out into the massive public. And the earliest online trailer started back in 1993. The whole like idea was, I believe it was Warner Brothers and Walt Disney Studios made this partnership with AOL to get a few of their trailers out online very early on. And they weren't for any popular movies at first either. So the only way you could watch them was through an AOL account. And one of the movies, I kid you not, was the Super Mario Brothers movie from 1993 that is said to be the start of the horrendous video game adaptation.
Dennis Hopper plays Bowser, right?
Something like it. It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Which is significantly different from the modern idea of like, oh, we need to track how like many likes and views our trailer gets within the first 24 hours on like every social media platform. So from very humble beginnings to now just for like fandoms online, just, oh, our trailer got this, what did your trailer get? Instead of that annoyance. And this is where I will stop sharing for a bit and give it to
Okay. This tab, share this tab. This is working. People can see. All right. So I'm gonna take over from where Kyle left off, sort of, and talk about contemporary trailers. And obviously we're living that history, so I don't have to talk to you about that history. I want to talk about trailers themselves in terms of a post-production theory and an editing theory and structure and techniques that we, as a consciousness around trailers today, we have come to understand, but maybe not know about. Things that everyone who's ever watched a trailer would know exists. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff you go, and you're going to think in your head, oh yeah, every trailer does that. But it's not something that is ever written down anywhere, or it's not something that's typically taught. And it's super interesting to talk about and see how all trailers use it and how they use it well and how they use it poorly. So to reference what Kyle was talking about, this is the traditional storyline. Anyone who's ever taken any creative class, writing, cinema, storytelling in general, knows this line. It is your classic introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. And this is supposed to graph the tension and resolution of conflict throughout your story. It's supposed to also sort of be an interest graph for your story. Drama, conflict, all those great things that make a story interesting and keep us engaged in. However, trailers started this way. If you look back at Casablanca, those very first ones that sort of were the stopgaps between films while you were there all day. They were basically their own little stories. They were like 5 to 10 minutes long. They had introduced you to the characters and then what they would be doing and what the story's about. And then they would do that little thing at the end, which is come and see it, which is your resolution, your falling action after all that. But nowadays, trailers are shorter, or trailers continued to get shorter. They became marketing tools. So they had to switch to a more oh, I'm not even presenting. I'm just in the slides. Here you go. I had to switch to a more immediate attention-grabbing sort of format to be as effective form of marketing. And this sort of started with Jaws, right? The blockbusters, this sort of modern trailer, how it's sort of understood as a promotional material, but also as its own sort of form of entertainment. And as you can see, it also has those who are familiar with stand-up may also be familiar with this sort of storyline. Stand-up comedians use this storyline all the time in order to create their performances. It's a way to catch the audience. Your cold open is something either exciting or pointedly dramatic. Could be a very soft moment as well. Something that's meant to grab your audience's attention, and then you flash all the cards, right? The studio cards, the title cards. Something that is upfront, will keep your attention, stop you from looking away. And then you get your introduction and your escalation, and then trailers don't bother with the wind down anymore, because you have your climax, you show the final card, you put the date when the movie's coming out, and then you're done. Your 2 minutes are up. So this is a very slow, there are still trailers that use this form today, but I think a lot of us would find that this doesn't quite fit with the way we do trailers, or perhaps we can make it more specific for contemporary trailers, which is what this is. As you can see, it's very similar to the one I just showed you, but it has all these spikes in it. And people who are unfamiliar with this line may have no idea what these spikes are, but I guarantee you, you do know what these spikes are. We're gonna watch some trailers in a second, but I'm gonna tell you some information about the spikes so you know what to look for. These spikes are basically accents. These are some techniques for contemporary trailers. Accents and stop downs, which are the second and third bullet there. These are moments that line up with the story of the trailer, but are meant to punctuate the trailer story with visuals or sound effects. And it's very dry for me to explain it, so I'm going to show you in a minute. But we'll also talk about the other techniques that differentiate contemporary trailers from modern trailers. So in that Jaws trailer, which is a modern trailer, very linear, right? You had the cold open with the girl in the water, but then you had the voiceover guy talking about how it's an adapted novel. Nowadays, voiceover with the death of LaFontaine is pretty much gone. There's far more dialogue editing, which is basically the characters from the movie being cut around to form a narrative. It's just a preference of contemporary audiences. Voiceover is kind of slow. It's kind of clunky nowadays. The title cards are flashier. There's a more visual element to that. Editing to the beat is something you'll see all the time. It's going to be the hallmark of the things I'm going to show you in a second. Any action trailer has a pop or a rock soundtrack that goes along with it, and that you will feel the beat cut to and cut with. You'll see a very good example of that in a second. And then, of course, there's buttons now. Some trailers like to put jokes at the end of the trailer, which is, if you go back to the story line, would essentially be, there would be a resolution, a drop off, and then another spike. Something to stick in your memory about the trailer. And you can see, and then one last point that I do want to talk about here, their trailers are pretty much their own works nowadays. There's a lot of talk and sometimes a lot of controversy around trailers that basically take shots from the movie that aren't used and put them in the trailers, such that they substantially change the meaning of the trailer versus the movie, whether it's other characters or unused scenes, unused shots. Basically, trailer houses get all that footage and they make up their own decisions about what a trailer is. Trailer houses are their own independent production companies that have their own styles and they have their own brand image that sell a movie in a specific way. So they have all the tools that anyone cutting a movie, that film houses do, like visual effects departments, like sound recorders and sound mixing and all. I see people talking. Yep. They have their own music. They make their own music sometimes. Sometimes they'll borrow production cues from the soundtrack and weave it in with other things. You'll see a great example of that in a second. So let me stop talking about examples and let me show you. So I'm going to show you two movies from the same genre of film, and one that I think is pretty good, one that I think is not so great. You guys are probably familiar with these properties. I also went in Premiere and I used the new Premiere subtitles from the 15th edition to show you guys what the graph is. So you'll see subtitles of basically how the story graph is playing out live here. And I could talk to you, we could go back and talk a little bit more about the accents and the stop downs, define them a bit more. It should be pretty clear when they happen, but these will be good examples of it. So we're going to start with, I'm not going to tell you which one I think is good and which one I think is bad, because I'm interested to see your guys' discussion of it, but we're going to start with this first one, do a second one. And these are quick. Hopefully you should go quick. Let me know if you can hear it okay, because the sound is 80% of picture. So would like that to come through clearly.
Should you choose to accept it? I wonder.
Iffy?
Yeah, choose not to.
Sounds like it's just coming through your mic.
It's strange. Let's try really quick if I stop sharing.
Yeah, intense sounds important for these.
Yes. Let's see if I just share the screen, if that's better or worse. Yes, no? Worse.
No, it's fine. But did you check share computer sound on that screen?
There's got to be a way to do that, right?
So when you go to share at the bottom, when you select the screen or the window, it'll say share.
Oh yeah, it says it right there.
Optimize for video too, those two.
Yes, there we are. This should be better. Better?
Should you choose to accept it? I wonder, did you ever choose not to? The end you always feared is coming. And the blood will be on your hands. The fallout of all your good intentions.
You had a terrible choice to make in Berlin. One life over millions. And now the world is at risk.
This is the CIA's mission. If he had held on to the plutonium, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
His team would be dead.
Yes, they would. That's the job.
Down with the victim. We both know you need them. Stuck in the middle of all irrelevance.
You don't understand what you're involved in.
You need to walk away.
Please don't make me go through you.
How many times has Hunt's government betrayed him, disavowed him, cast him aside? How long before a man like that has had enough?
You can't fight the friction. So you can't take the pressure.
Ethan, that's not who we are.
Maybe we need to reconsider that.
You can't fight the friction.
So, how is he?
Hell, you know, same old Ethan.
What the hell is he doing?
I find it best not to look.
That's the first one. So, based off that, does everyone have a good understanding of what an accent and what a stop down is now? Okay, right? Everyone, I feel like, understands what that is, but when you try to explain it, it's confusing. But quite clearly, sound effects cues and visuals that are drawing and highlight either in contrast highlight the story or go along with the story to punctuate certain lines of dialogue. Really sell the kinetic energy of a piece like this. Now I'm going to do another one, and then we can compare and contrast the two.
It's freezing. Why are we walking? You jacked the car keys. Oh, that's my car!
Huge IQ, great performance in the Marines, but you gave up. Drugs, petty crime. Never had a job.
Who are you?
Your father saved my life.
Dean says you're a fair guy.
Boys, I've had a rather emotional day, so whatever your beef with Eggsy is, and I'm sure it's well-founded, I'd appreciate it if you could just leave us in peace.
You should get out of the way, Granddaddy. You'll get hurt.
Manners maketh man. Do you know what that means? Then let me teach you a lesson. Are we going to stand around here all day, or are we going to fight? Sorry about that. Needed to let off a little steam. What do you see? I see potential. Kingsman is an international intelligence agency operating at the highest level of discretion. If you're prepared to adapt, you can transform.
Into a spy.
Interested?
Oh, yes.
You are about to embark on the most dangerous job interview in the world. We're here to test you to the limit, to enhance your skills, train you for the evil out there.
If you get blood on the carpet, you have to take the carpet up. Can't stand the sight of blood.
To everyone who said I never make it.
Felt sorry for the boy, did you?
Lord, weren't you mistaken?
He's as much Kingsman material as any of them. More so.
I got a dinner date with greatness.
Mankind is the virus, and I'm the cure.
Sounds like a lot of people are going to die.
Do I look like I give them?
You can't always please the crowd. Still not bound and down. This heavy crowd.
Son of a bitch.
All right. So I am keeping aware of my time here, but we could talk briefly in broad strokes about this. Thoughts, opinions on the both, either individually or both of them.
I'm interested in the use of the cut to blacks. Is that like a new phenomenon? Does that go with the graph, do you think, to get those spikes like every other like things like that?
Yeah. So basically, if you think there's two types of accents, right? There's the visual accent, which is a really quick montage. There's the SFX sound effects accent, which are gunshots, sound ups. Even I didn't mark it. I realized when I was watching the Mission Impossible one back, I didn't mark it, but when it cuts to her footsteps, that director's footsteps in time with the music, I was like, that's immediately a sound effects accent to me as well, right? So in terms of stop downs, the drone the tapering drone, very common sound effects stop down. You could think of as a dip to black as a visual stop down, right? The lack of visual information on the screen creates an awareness to you as a viewer, like, oh, something's happening, pay attention to the next thing. So stop downs, despite the vocabulary, they are peaks. They are meant to create those spikes in attention and the conflict and things that keep you engaged. Can I just get a show of hands? Who found the Mission Impossible one better or preferable? And who found the Kingsman one preferable? Interesting. I am of the opposite opinion, but now I want to hear everyone's opinions on this. But let me ask a third question. Who finds them indistinguishable? Okay. Not as many, but definitely a strong preference for Kingsman. I mean, if anyone's willing to talk about that, they can. Otherwise, I'm willing to talk about my opinions on it as well.
I think it's just the use of quicker cut action in Kingsman that makes it more visually enticing. Especially
okay.
if it's cut to like all those different like beats of trying to get like the music and like can't think of words. I'm sorry. You know what I'm talking about, the spikes. There we go. Like in
yeah.
in the structure.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think the Mission Impossible one just kind of gives me a better feel for what that movie is, basically, which is like a little bit of plot, but it doesn't matter. And then Tom Cruise is going to do a bunch of stuff that almost kills him. And that's all I want from that movie. And that's what it gives you. Whereas like Kingsman also, it had a thing I don't like in trailers in general, where it gives you like the second act break or whatever. Like you see, but once I'm like in a plot, like I don't want to live the movie by watching the trailer, and kind of Mission Impossible doesn't do that. It just gives you kind of like a sprinkling of what the plot is. But basically it's like, plot to blow up the world. Who cares? And Kingsman, I mean, it's indicative of the movies too, because like Mission Impossible is very classy, well done. And Kingsman's great and good fun, but it's definitely like a hodgepodge of like, who the hell knows what's going on sometimes. So I think it's that too, but that's definitely why I prefer. I even don't care in the Mission Impossible one that they use footage that's not in the movie. Like him driving towards that truck. I don't think that barbed wire with the blood is in the movie, but it's like, sell me the movie. Just sell me the movie. And that one just, I love that movie too. So maybe I might just be biased.
Yeah, so I'll speak a little bit. A lot of what Sean said, I agree with. Out of curiosity, those who preferred the Kingsman movie, who have seen it? Okay. Would you agree that that trailer is reflective of the movie? Right? They are very similar in style, these trailers, but those who have seen Kingsman know that it is more of they have jokes in their trailers, obviously, but it's not a Tom Cruise movie. It's more, your character doesn't start out as a badass. It's more of a protege coming into their own sort of thing. Well, Tom Cruise is the badass throughout the whole thing in the Mission Impossible movies. So I think as a story thing, outside the context of the trailer, the Kingsman movie sort of stumbles a bit. But in terms of what I was talking about earlier, the Kingsman spends a lot of time being flashy, and then you don't hear, we're still in an introduction like a minute of the way in. There's the whole scene with the bar fight that happens in the beginning. That to me is that's the thing that should be ending it. I want that to be my selling point. It's this super stylized fight scene that you don't see anywhere else in cinema, the high frame rate shutter sort of stutter fights, that it sort of does all without a strong music backing, which is present in the movie but not in the trailer. And then it cuts to the rest of the story. It feels like it's really confused or just like disjointed. Like it's one of those things where I like every part of the trailer, but I don't like the thing as a whole, would be my criticism. Whereas the Mission Impossible trailer is really smooth all the way through. I don't feel the 2 minutes. Like I feel like I start watching it and then it's over. And that also helps with, I think, the weaving of the music, its own soundtrack with a pop Imagine Dragons. Say what you want about Imagine Dragons, but I actually think that trailer makes the Imagine Dragons song worthwhile listening to. Makes it so I'm like, that's a plus in my book. And where the Kingsman trailer just sort of puts the music back there and really forgets about it, really doesn't use it. It's sort of just a generic pop track that's over the dialogue and over the action. So, but obviously, to each their own. And there's a lot that goes into trailers. Obviously, I think Kingsman had better dialogue than the Tom Cruise one. Like, if you asked me to repeat any dialogue from the Tom Cruise trailer, I don't think I could. It was that sort of generic, but all the action stands out to me in the Tom Cruise one, where as opposed to the Kingsman one, where after that bar fight scene, I don't think I could relate to you a single thing that really happened action-wise. But in order to keep on track here, because we still have 2 more slides, and to wrap up, we're going to talk, Kyle and I together, hopefully. We're going to talk about some other, please don't. And I have to share my screen again. We're going to talk a little bit more about, well, we already talked about this slide. I don't feel like we have to go into this again. What else is here? You want to skip to the awards show? Just because we're short on time.
Yeah, I can quickly go over like the different jobs though.
Oh, sure.
Here, I'll share this. I'll share the screen.
Okay.
1 second, sorry. Interestingly enough, because similar to how back with the NSS, where they were cookie cutter monopolized business, nowadays a lot of movie trailers, like as we've discussed, have become a cookie cutter style, but done by multiple different studios within their own competitive field, where they're trying to one up one another. So you have different trailer houses across Los Angeles, specifically like Trailer Park, Ant Farm, all these different places that are competing with one another, with like trying to get different studio attention, trying to outdo themselves on the best trailer. So like even you yourself could like end up working on one of these. Different editor and assistant editor positions are popular. Different coordinators trying to like calculate what they need by when. Writers for the trailer, they'll literally take all the dailies and everything they get for it and have people write out the trailer itself. They'll also create composers, so those whoom, like sound effects and everything are done in-house as well. They're not just grabbed from some storage bank out there. And creative directors as well, who just direct the trailers themselves. So again, we talked about the dailies being done already. Also, some VFX are made in-house as well. And specifically VFX made for trailers, like the big one that I was thinking, I always think of is this one from Avengers: Infinity War. This like money shot that isn't even in the movie, which is weird to me. But another big thing too is secrecy, because again, sometimes it's like these bigger like blockbuster ones, and even like on like smaller indie like films made in these in these trailer houses. All sorts of NDAs are discussed, things that can be shown, what can't be shown. So like trailer campaigns, I have this one that I won't show from the second Captain America Civil War trailer, where Spider-Man flings in. Like that was like stylized by both studio and trailer house, specifically in their campaign for marketing, from teaser to first trailer to second trailer, just to like build up the hype, I guess you would be able to call that. And also TV spots and social media posts are things made by these companies as well. We'll just get through this quick.
All right.
All right. And one thing I thought was really funny, the trailer award show. Anyone ever watch? Yeah, I know I haven't. I just listed down like stuff, like just different like things they discuss, and I highly recommend looking up this later because some of this stuff's really funny that they discuss. So this is from their latest one, their 20th one for 2019. They haven't done 2020 yet, if they're going to do it at all. And they just got this. They give trailer, like each trailer a specific name. So it's this Toy Story one called Stories. The Star is Born one is called Not Alone. So they have best action, best drama, horror, music, and just some more interesting ones. I thought there were the best video game trailer. I really don't think of video game trailers as something like worth an award. I don't know, but it didn't really cross my mind before. But I thought that was really interesting. Best teaser, again, a teaser being a trailer for a trailer, pretty much. They even show that off. This one I think Shana would like, the Don LaFontaine Award for best voiceover. That went to the teaser trailer for Beale Street Could Talk, and the trashiest trailer. Which when I watched this one, it's for this like weird small horror flick called Piercing. The trailer wasn't good, so I'm like, do they just give this to bad trailers? Which isn't the case. The year before, they gave it to the movie where Aubrey Plaza and Alison Brie and are like nuns and they curse. I can't remember the name. Then they're trying like to bane the one guy. If anyone knows what movie I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, I think. But like they gave it that an award as well. So it's not necessarily, it's not saying this is the worst trailer. It's just the one with the most foul content. So they do have little fun categories like that I also highly recommend. And if you look over here, maybe one day on your shelf, you can display your Golden Trailer Award, which is a literal trailer. It comes full circle. I love that.
Yeah, that's all we have. Oh, right on time.
And with that, that is just a little bit of the structure and history of the movie trailer. Hooray.
Oh, shit. The shot where Cruz injures himself is in the trailer, by the way. It's that rooftop jump.
I know. That's why I said I was like really excited to see that trailer because
he was injured.
I knew it was in it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not the one you think it is.
Yeah. It's just like a really...
It's the roof jump.
It's just him on the rooftops. There's nothing else going on in the shot, but he like breaks his leg.
Ooh. Anyone else have any like questions, last minute wrap up that you want to talk about? Anything we didn't cover that you hope one day we do?
Well, just on trailers, if you don't have a Film Freeway page for your latest project, I recommend you do that. And I believe that Jacob, right, there's a basically a standard like upload for a trailer there, so you can kind of implement some of these concepts and theories into the crafting of your own trailer.
Yes.
Or you could have Netflix AI you a trailer.
We know what you want. Robot, tell them what they want.
Exactly.
It knows you better than you know you. Trust the algorithms.
So just know that if you're into editing and you think it's very difficult to get into the editorial room or like a feature or TV show, there are trailer houses, like Kyle mentioned, that they have their own editors, and it's more like you work on a bunch of different projects. So it's not like you're freelance and hired just for that one project. So it's kind of like a safer route to become an editor.
Yeah, like in the research I did, sometimes like a trailer production can take up to 2 days. It's quick and easy to get out, up to 2 months. Like in over like 200 different drafts. So when you feel bad when like you export like the 9th final version, don't feel it bad at all. Like they go to 200.
And that's it should be noted, that's per trailer. I'm sure most of you are familiar with, there's trailer 1, 2, you have your teasers, you have your 4 socials, you have your 4 cinema versions. So there's a lot of trailers are not just the one anymore, they're the many.
Cool. All right, so next week we've got Jackson and Yoon who are gonna go. Give a brief phrase hint.
Trailer.
No.
Introduction to cameras and both in-depth and more chill, I guess.
So differences between camera specs and setups and how it affects post-production potentially could be part of it. Color space could be part of it, that kind of stuff. So anyone have any requests for camera questions?
Make sure you turn the sharpening off if you're doing post-production. That's an important camera spec I didn't know about.
None of us can find it.